people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Fran Hennessy, I think she boxed really well. Yeah, she's obviously a potential opponent down the line because I'm sure she'll be wanting the British title next or the Commonwealth title and pushing for something. So yeah, I like Fran and I think it would be a great fight.
Was young Gallagher ahead of her own upcoming fight with standout amateur Ebony Jones, set to go down in May on the undercard of Harper versus Zimmerman in Doncaster, headlined by Terry Harper. Apparently, Francesca Hennessy is a potential, someone that the winner of that fight might potentially square off against. I will say, both Gallagher and Ebony Jones are a bit further along in their careers than Francesca is in hers, and thus, facing the winner of that fight would be a step up in class for Francesca Hennessy, the young daughter of famed promoter Mick Hennessy. Her father used to promote boxers, now she's a boxer herself.
Francesca.
Last in action on the undercard of Jonas versus Price, a little over a week ago, she did her job and she won the fight. Now potential opponents are piling up.
The winner of Gallagher versus Jones.
So I've talked about this fight once or twice already here on the channel. Gallagher is a good little fighter, solid, and she means well, but I favor the amateur experience and activity of Ebony Jones to seize the day and win the fight.
She doesn't have as many fights as Gallagher, but I do think she has a higher ceiling, and if nothing else, more amateur experience. I think Ebony Jones wins a points decision, and I think Ebony makes for a stiff test, a stiff acid test for Francesca Hennessy, if that's what it comes down to.
Potential opponents are piling up. Earlier today, across the pond, former champion Shannon Courtenay took on veteran journeywoman Beck Connolly.
So what?
So Shannon Courtenay, not that long ago's name was attached to a potential Francesca Hennessy fight. Now that Shannon is back in the winner's bracket, maybe she moves into that Francesca Hennessy fight.
While we wait for the outcome of this one, because this fight is all the way out there in May, it's conceivable that before we see Francesca Hennessy face the winner of Gallagher versus Jones, she might have another fight. Maybe that fight will be against Shannon Courtenay, a familiar face, a face that the British boxing community will be familiar with due to her time at Matchroom when she was over there. She's not over there anymore.
It's another good acid test for Francesca Hennessy, who's been winning the fights that she's supposed to win and looking how she's supposed to look. I take a so far so good approach when it comes to Francesca. This early on, we don't know how good she is or how good she isn't when she's pushed, when she's tested.
The idea that she could end up fighting one or some of these fighters, these are all legitimate acid tests for a young fighter like Francesca.
Jury's still out. I don't yet know what to think about Francesca and how far she can go. So far, so good. That's what I see. She's a bit of a slickster, a mover, a finesse fighter, mid-range to inside. But if she's pushed, I don't know how she's going to handle it. I don't yet know how she's going to react. This early on,
everybody looks all right. This early on, everybody looks promising. So I like the idea that Francesca may end up fighting the winner of Gallagher versus Jones, that I anticipate is going to be Ebony Jones.
What might be Ebony Jones's return to the Sky Sports platform. You might remember that when Boxer first took the reins on the network, Ebony Jones was one of the first fighters they signed. They have since parted ways, but if she holds up her end of the bargain in this Gallagher fight, we might see her on Sky again.
Against Francesca in what is one of the deeper divisions, one of the deepest divisions in all of women's boxing. There are bigger threats out there than these girls. And to prove that you're a world-class fighter, yes, you're gonna have to go through them.
Ongoing negotiation business deal that we had, and it was simple. We fight, our headline, I'm a free agent after.
If this is the last of our run together, we can shake hands and go, wow, we changed your life forever, and good luck to you. Hopefully, we can carry on, and we can find him a big fight for the summer. But, you know, we'll see where life takes us.
No, they want to go and put shit in the contract to extend contracts and shit and do the same shit they did with me for the Canelo fight, you know? Take money, take 20%, you know what I'm saying? And we're not doing that.
Ooh, he said a lot of different things. He said he wanted Skull, you guys promised Skull, but they only offered him $1.5 million.
Offered who?
Skull.
Yeah, Skull wanted $3 million.
Well, he said that, yeah, right. Well, he said $1.5 million is all. I think that all you guys wanted to offer him, and that's why that fight fell apart. And he also feels like since he had no interest in signing an extension with Matchroom, that this is the reason why this fight happened, and you put him on the co-main event.
This fight happened is because it was written into his contract in the Canelo Alvarez fight. Absolutely, I'm not going to put a load more money into a show when it's the last fight of a deal.
No, they want to go and put shit in the contract to extend contracts.
Why is he not getting that, though?
Because he doesn't understand the business. That's the reality.
I don't feel like is that necessary, number one. I know that my name is big enough to make any big fight happen.
I understand his frustration because we were close to doing Puerto Rico, and that's what he wanted. But when we run out of time, it's like, look, I don't want you to wait till June or July. Let's just do what you requested, which is fight on the undercard for a certain amount of money. Let's get it done. It's all very well saying, well, I wanted William Skull.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need to be tied in with no promoter trying to control me. I'm a boss at the end of the day. And these guys are business. These guys, they got to be business partners with me. They're not my boss.
You know, this whole thing about fighters want to have promotional companies and they want to be partners. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have a partnership, right, where we'll pay William Skull what he wants. We'll pay you what you want, but we'll go 50-50 on the show. So if the show loses $2 million, you okay to put $1 million in? Or you just want your logo on the backdrop? That's the reality.
You know what I'm saying? And people gotta understand, right, that with boxing, they run to the TV network to get the bag, and then the TV network dishes out the money to the promoter. The promoter grabs the money and then
breaks you off. Yeah.
So why do I have to bow down to him for what?
They don't want to roll the dice. They don't want to put the money up. They just want to be partners. The greatest thing for a fighter to be is with a good team of people that financially continuously reward them, which is what we've done for Edgar Berlanga. $12 million in 3 fights.
I could have made that fight match even happen myself. We could have got any TV network to go ahead and make that fight happen. You know what I'm saying?
You know, he has this opinion of his commercial power, and he's a star. He's a great fighter, but sometimes it can become disjointed to the point where, Edgar, we're on your side, mate. Do you know what I mean? But we have to keep the business real, and we know the real truth, and we know the real numbers.
Francesca Hennessy did it in her hometown, no problem, with Salida, the zone. He did it, no problem. They had a bunch of people that nobody knew who was fighting on that card, and they gave him an opportunity. You know, so I don't want to hear that the zone can't fund or couldn't pay me, or they didn't. No, I don't believe in that shit.
And then hopefully we can move on. And if we don't, like I said, I'll look back and say, wow, what a job we did for Edgar Berlanga. I wish you all the best.
You know what I'm saying? We was going to sell that shit out. If we would have started promoting that shit since November, that Choli sell 18,000 people would have been sold out. You know, and I'm sad because I had a whole bunch of fighters that was getting ready for that card because they thought the fight was going to happen.
There was talk about Rosado being in a fight with you potentially.
No, like undercard fighters.
Oh.
It's confirmation of everything I thought. Both sides of the story confirming what I initially speculated, that Edgar was expecting big-time money for what was his final fight of his Matchroom deal, and Matchroom ain't gonna kick that out unless you make a commitment to them. You sign an extension.
He doesn't want to.
So then why the hell would they spend $3 million to get William's skull in the ring?
You're leaving after that, or you might.
So that if they overspend on that show, there's no way to get the money back that they lost because you'll have gone somewhere else. You sign an extension, they might spend it because then they say, we can make the money back with another fight. We can make the money back down the line if you make a commitment, but if you don't, they won't either.
Simple.
So that the would-be businessman Edgar Berlanga could start harping about the money not coming from Matchroom anyway. The money comes from the broadcaster.
The money that pays you.
The broadcaster entrusts Matchroom with the money, the budget.
Because that's what it is. It's not a fire sale.
The budget. To use that responsibly throughout the calendar year in order to do shows. And if you go paying a William Skull $3 million so that Edgar can have his fight in Puerto Rico, that's irresponsible. That's overspending. The fight might be a flop. Because if you're paying William Skull $3 million, what do you gotta pay Edgar? And how much is the totality of this show going to cost versus what it actually brings in? It's to the point you might have to bill it as a pay-per-view to try to recoup the money. And if you do that, it might still flop. Because it's not like people are buying pay-per-views that much these days anyway.
Call a spade a spade. You tried to finesse them, and they didn't let you. That's why you're mad.
You'd think they're supposed to break the bank for a fighter who isn't even making a commitment to come back, to stick with them. It don't work that way, buddy.
He brought up Clarissa Shields.
You want to tell me who on Clarissa Shields' show got $3 million? Because it wasn't Clarissa, and she was the headliner.
Well, you're expecting Matchroom to kick that out for William Skull?
There's a direct correlation between boxers having more autonomy in the last 20 to 25 years and the decline of the sport.
In America.
Fighters having a bit more say-so than they used to in previous eras has resulted in fights that are more difficult to make and more expensive, more difficult to do good business and actually turn over a profit in order to sustain a business. You let the fighter have it their way, and it's always supposed to work out to where they get more money.
Even if the show flops.
Even if fiscally, it doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense. And that's why so many of these would-be business guys and would-be promoters don't know the ball from the bounce. You gotta be a partner with Edgar Berlanga. It's just like Eddie Hearn said. They're not partners unless you're bearing some brunt of the risks. And you're not.
They take a risk on the show, it flops, and you sail off into the sunset with a hefty guarantee they should have never gave you anyway.
Because you wasn't good for it. If you were, the show wouldn't flop. Edgar doesn't want to make a commitment to Matchroom because rumor has it he's going to go to MVP. He's going to go to the Jake Paul side of things.
And that's not even saying that that's a bad move, because Jake is investing heavily in the island of Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican boxing. But what that is saying is you tried to finesse Matchroom, and all you're mad about is that they didn't let you.
Yeah, I'm not going to sign an extension, but I'm going to make all of these demands so that I can haul ass to MVP afterwards and leave Matchroom with the check.
With the bill.
Let's call a spade a spade. You tried to finesse them. They didn't let you. That's what you're mad about. Now, you think you're big time? You think you're a star? Go be a star. Go shine.
Do what you want.
Missed the weight for the Ortiz fight tomorrow night. Think he came in about an ounce or a pound over? Something like that. They renegotiated. The fight is still on. It's still happening.
That will complete his Matchroom contract and allow him to move on.
To then perhaps go to MVP and see what they can do for you, what opponents they can secure, and what is the endless search for greener pastures. Top Rank wasn't good enough. Now Matchroom isn't either. The grass is always greener on some other side of the street.
So now you want to go to MVP to stand on their lawn.
See how long it takes before he doesn't like it on that side of the street. And just in keeping with the theme of all things super middleweight, Hamzah Sheeraz is set to move up to super middle after the Adames draw. Hamzah Sheeraz is plotting an assault on the super middleweight scene after failing in his attempt to win the WBC title at 160 last month. The 25-year-old faced Carlos Adames for his belt at the venue in Riyadh season on February 22nd, but the champion retained his title after a controversial split draw that most people think should have been an Adames win. Sheeraz, who injured his hand early in the encounter, remained undefeated as a result, but his promoter Frank Warren described his fighter as very fortunate to get the draw. It had looked as though the Ilford man might be handed an immediate rematch and a second crack at the apple, but he will now be heading in a different direction. The 6'3" puncher will instead move up to super middle and attempt to win a world title there. Ring Magazine champion Saul Canelo Alvarez, who holds the WBC, WBA, and WBO titles, will make his Riyadh season debut on May 3rd when he takes on IBF champion William Skull in a super middleweight undisputed clash, the second one of Canelo Alvarez's career. But Sheeraz will look to position himself for a shot at the winner once he returns to full fitness following his hand injury. So are they now blaming the performance on weight issues? Because when you move up in weight right after that, that's how it comes across.
Standing in at 6'3" at 160 pounds, I guess it was only a matter of time before his statuesque frame became a hindrance.
This has given rise to a lot of talk that the weight bully is finally moving up in weight. I'm not one for weight bully claims, weight bully accusations, because what may start off as an advantage for a while turns into an impediment. And the danger is never knowing when it's going to catch up, when one fight might be one fight too many at a given weight.
Warren told Ring Magazine it was killing him to make middleweight, and that was part of the problem. You've only got to look at his height to see that. I don't know how he did the weight. He is just getting bigger and bigger, so he will have to move up now. On the night, I think the weight was a problem for him, and then his hand, too. It just wasn't all there for him. He was very fortunate to get the draw, but now we move on. He was dead at the weight, so how he managed to still box like that in the last few rounds, I'll never know.
Boxer boss Ben Shalom recently suggested that Sheeraz could take on his British and Commonwealth super middleweight champion Callum Simpson. The 28-year-old from Barnsley is ranked inside the top 10 with 3 of the 4 sanctioning bodies and is currently on the hunt for a big-name opponent for an outdoor show at Oakwell this summer. But when asked whether he would consider making that fight for Sheeraz next, Warren said there are loads of options in that division. It's too soon to worry about who he's going to fight yet. It's just about getting his hand better. It's Ramadan at the moment, and he busted his hand up, so it is a chance for him to let it recover. He will be out again in June. Then it is about positioning. Below Canelo, it is a free-for-all in the rankings. My hope is that Hamzah Sheeraz can establish himself as a big star of the division, and if he's more comfortable at the weight, that's exactly what he will do. Though it's not encouraging leaving middleweight like this, because that basically means you couldn't win a title there and you had to leave before you did.
So he's a weight bully.
Implying that he's a weight bully implies that the rest of the sport of boxing isn't, when we all know this is the industry standard. Hamzah Sheeraz was not doing anything at middleweight that both Zurdo Ramirez and David Benavidez haven't been doing at super middle. They're not doing anything that Brandon Figueroa and Rafael Espinoza aren't already doing at featherweight. You look at those guys' height and you say that, well, you could easily fill out to 130 or 135, hell, 140. And you could say that about a lot of guys at a lot of weights.
And because you can, that's what makes it a redundancy to pigeonhole one guy for it. A lot of guys are doing the same thing.
How many guys do you actually think are campaigning at a weight that's anywhere close to their walk-around weight?
Enough already.
The real issue is that Hamzah didn't make it to world title level as a middleweight, so who's to say he's going to be able to do that at a higher weight?
That if he would have won the title decisively from Carlos and then moved up, you could at least say he had what it took to become a champion, but he can't make that weight anymore. Now...
I mean, what, you're chasing a Canelo Alvarez fight? You fight Canelo, he knocks you out. By the time you see him, he might be undisputed again, meaning you don't get a belt unless you go through him. And if you try to, he'll knock you out.
So I see it.
So there goes any hope of breathing new life into the middleweight division. Hamzah's leaving.
It'll stay dead as a doorknob for the foreseeable future.